Once upon a time, in 2005, I came upon this file folder of letters in a box of family stuff that I had in my basement. This was from my dad's side of the family. And I had never seen it before. It was very interesting. It had been tied up with a rubber band. I opened it up, and this is what I saw. Right on top, this letter, United States Public Health Service Hospital. I didn't know what it meant at the time, but I've now learned that that's what that stands for. And in this envelope, a couple of pretty important things. This was my grandfather's ID card that he was issued on December 15th, 1951, when he voluntarily admitted himself to the federal narcotic farm at Fort Worth. There were two such narcotic farms. The main one was in Lexington, Kentucky, and it turns out that's where he had intended to go, but he had to go via Fort Worth. He had left San Diego on his way to Lexington, stopped in Fort Worth, and decided to stay there. But before all of that, in September of 1951, he had written to the United States Public Health Service in Lexington, Kentucky, and apparently had some carbon paper or something where he retained a copy of this letter that he sent them, laying out his dependence on narcotics, Demerol, morphine, barbiturates, a whole lot of narcotics. And he had decided at that point that maybe he needed to get some help. And so he wrote a letter to the director of the United States Public Health Service, narcotic farm in Lexington, asking for some guidance. He got a letter back. It's undated. Oh, no, it's not. September 27th, so pretty quickly after his letter. And basically, in this letter, they included a pamphlet on the program and an application for admission, and basically said, we would request that you fill this out, and if deemed appropriate, we'll see if you're eligible for admission. So that was in September. In December, he flew from San Diego to Lexington by way of Fort Worth and decided when he got into Fort Worth that he would just stay there, and sent my grandmother a letter to that effect. It's pretty clear to me that nobody in the family thought this was going to happen the way it happened. A few days before Christmas, it had appeared as though it was sort of a reconnaissance mission or just to check out the facility, see if he liked it, but he just walked in and decided to stay there. And these letters are between him and my dad and my uncle and my aunt and my grandmother during the 4 months that he was in that facility. And I've been through each and every one of them multiple times. I transcribed them. Some were trickier to transcribe than others because my grandfather's handwriting was a little tough to read, but sometimes there were typed letters, which were quite a bit easier. This is one from my dad, and he was at Boston University at the time. This one is from my grandmother. This is another one from my grandmother. And I transcribed all of these, and one of the most important features that I found in these letters was when my grandfather, in several of the letters, said, I want you to save these letters so that I have a record of what I have done here. And he first made that request in a letter to my uncle for his birthday. And it was really interesting to see. He wanted a record of what he had done here in this drug treatment program. And when I first saw these letters in 2005, I thought in and of themselves they were a wonderful story, because they were a story of a family rallying together when the father and the head of the household decided that he needed to seek treatment for a debilitating addiction and spend this time away from his family. And it's a testament to how a family pulls together and survives. And I thought in and of itself it was a wonderful story. And so it has become part of Crossing 51, because my story ends up being the other part, and how my grandfather, who I never knew, inspired me in ways where he demonstrated perseverance and self-awareness and just a desire to be better. And the last letter in this stack of letters from the facility to my grandmother basically informs her that my grandfather has the emotional and intellectual resources that it will make it possible for him to again assume his responsibility without resorting to the use of narcotics. So he was discharged after completing treatment in April, the end of April of 1952. And this, to me, is an amazing family history.